Hey there, we're the Westlaw Pirates and welcome to the show. We're here to share our thoughts on Northwestern athletics and college sports with thoughts and analysis from the visceral to the statistical. We run our tailgate with the red pirate flag flying high above as we give no quarter, especially the fourth. I'm Sam Walter.
I'm John Lacombe.
And I'm Eric Scouspo.
Bit of a week off last week. I know I personally was still a little sore from the Nebraska basketball game. I had the good fortune of going with my daughter, and it was fun for the first half and for the first part of the second half, and then oh boy, that was just that was rough.
I went to a game earlier, got to see the Nicky Bucket shot. Was like, Sam, come on out, bring the whole family.
Well, the good news is we could just let's just go past this part.
Exactly.
In fact, let's move past this part. In fact, never play this part again.
Never play this part again. So yeah, basketball. Actually, couple big wins. Like one big win. Couple road wins, which is huge, especially in conferences here. Going on the road, going to Ohio State, winning 70-49, and then tonight, as we record on Tuesday night, going up to Minnesota and winning 75-63. Huge wins, especially down the stretch as they're trying to claw into tournament position. Big Ten tournament position, let's be clear.
It truly is incredible. I mean, I think we'll get into the kind of specifics of it and how the Cats have gotten it done over the past two games, but obviously we are all well familiar at this point with how much of a miserable season this has been in terms of just the absolute horrible breaks that this team has gotten, right? I mean, you can absolutely run the gamut from just all-time player in Brooks Barnheiser, an extremely valuable player in Jalen Leach, those guys being out for the season, and then just, the horrible officiating, and then it bottoming out with Collins getting ejected against Washington, and then the Nebraska game and everything, and just we have mentioned many times this season that this is an imperfect basketball team that has the heart that you can only build up when you've been on the kind of run that this team has been on, and just the character of winners. And winning takes a lot of shapes and forms, and we would all be loving to chalk up wins left and right. But the bottom line is this team is just a severely wounded tiger right now. And a lot of teams, given the run that the stuff this team's had to go through, would have folded it up. And for this team at this point in the season to go on the road and get back-to-back road wins is just, I mean, what can you do but tip your hat? Tip your hat to Coach Collins and tip your hat to the character of the guys in the locker room.
Yeah, I well said. I think what has been striking to see in these last two games in particular is the commitment to defense, the commitment to rebounding, and I think you're seeing a little bit of a shift away from the 3-point for this team. And some of this because this is not a great 3-point shooting team. And I feel like throughout the course of this season, when Northwestern has settled for shots from three, that has put just real problems into their offense, and then it kind of ricochets on the other end of the floor. But I mean, I'll start with tonight because I watched every minute of tonight's game against Minnesota. I don't think any of us were able to see much of the Ohio State game, but the character of the team tonight was just one of pure focus and tenacity on the defensive side, the rebounding, etc. But then what is striking to see when they're in their offensive sets, and yes, they still shot some threes. Barry had a bunch of threes against Ohio State. Martinelli hit a couple tonight. You had, I think Clayton hit one, Mullins hit one. It's not that they're not taking them. It's that they're being smart about taking them, and they're prioritizing getting to the rim. There was a play in the second half. I think Minnesota's starting to make a little bit of a run. They're getting within. I think they got it down within 8 points maybe, and Sheravino gets the ball out on the edge, and the clock is running down. And with 5 seconds left on the clock, Sheravino decides to drive instead of just pulling up for three, and he gets a little bit of an off balance layup attempt, and it pops off the rim, and Nicky Buckets is right there to grab it, puts it back up for and one. That is the change in this team that has been propagated by playing the likes of Sheravino and KJ Wyndham and Mullins getting more time out there, and now Clayton getting more time out there. Like, Martinelli looked so patient and just focused on getting toward the rim tonight, and they prioritized that. And when you look at, they shot 16 free throw attempts tonight. They had 19 free throw attempts against Ohio State. This is how to take command of a basketball game on the offensive side. And
wait, hang on. We were getting calls on the road?
I know we were getting calls, but like, here's the thing. Like, in the past, we've settled for a lot of threes, and then there's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B there, but I did like what you're seeing is a team that, through absolute like devastation from an injury perspective, has had to totally refocus and refine themselves, and they're doing it. And you're seeing it in the style of ball that they're playing and the way they're approaching these games. And yes, these are two bad teams that they played. Nebraska and Oregon are much better squads. They lost two in the previous two games. Washington's the worst team in the league, though. So like, there's something here, and we'll see if they can carry it forward when they play Iowa this weekend at home.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about, and Scuzz has outlined a lot, and we've talked a lot about how, like, for example, with KJ Wyndham, we wish that he had gotten more run earlier, and that, like, frankly, in our minds, you can't give KJ Wyndham enough minutes now, particularly from an offensive perspective, just because what he brings. And obviously, the Ohio State game, he had a huge performance and was a big part of that.
Not just offense, like.
Right.
There was a period of this season where we were really worried about who carried the ball from like across half court. And turns out he's pretty good at that.
Well, bringing the ball up, but I think especially given the performance that this team's put together over the past two games, the huge forest through the trees bit of this is, regardless how many minutes different players should have had earlier in the season, and regardless of how you think the minutes should be distributed between Justin Mullins, Jordan Clayton, and KJ Wyndham, and who you think is starting, the bottom line is Northwestern is throwing heavy minutes to three guys who were getting practically no minutes the first half of the season. And that Northwestern then had two absolutely kneecapping injuries. And again, like, you can argue like about should guys have gotten more minutes earlier in the season, but the fact of the matter is, this team, in the current situation that it was in, has basically had to kind of pivot on a dime and figure out a way to effectively make an entire perimeter rotation out of guys who haven't been playing. And to see, again, that across two games, you're getting really solid contributions at either one end, the other end, or both, from Mullins, Clayton, and obviously from Wyndham, is a huge deal. I mean, it's a testament to the guys, and it's a testament to the coaching too. And you really have to step back and be like, look at the way this team was against USC when Leach got hurt, and how utterly lost they were for a little stretch there, right? Because you're suddenly looking and being like, this is a group of guys who have never played together in this context before, and suddenly they're immediately being asked to do it at the highest level of Big Ten basketball. And again, it's like, credit to the guys. Like, they have gelled, they're putting it together, and they're doing it with tenacity, getting key moments at key times from different guys. But again, it's like, really step back and be like, look at the rotation. Like, look at this Minnesota game and being like, you're throwing heavy minutes to Justin Mullins, Jordan Clayton, and KJ Wyndham. Heavy minutes. I'm doing quick math. 58, 70, 82 combined minutes to three guys who did not play for most of the first half of this season, and pulling out a road win. I mean, it's just incredible.
And I'm not trying to like bitch and moan about the minutes as much as I've been calling this out all year of Collins' rotation, his choices with freshmen in particular. It's Mullins barely played last year, and you can see the effect of him getting time on the floor. I mean, he's really good on the break. He's making much better choices in the offensive sets. Like, he's just finding his comfort out there. The guy is an A+ defender, an excellent rebounder. Having him out there is a net plus for the team. He was struggling to operate in the offense early in the season and last year, and as a result, he didn't get any playing time. And I get that this is like chicken and the egg. Which do you need to come first? Do you even figure out in practice that he starts looking good enough that you can trust him in the game, or do you just need to play him in the game for long enough to be able to get his sea legs? And so, like, I get it that this is a lot easier said than done, and hindsight's 2020. But seeing him come into his own, seeing the contributions that Clayton is making, particularly at like playing the true point guard position, and the way he is setting up other players, his defense, his shot is still a work in progress, having not played, at all this season until Leach went down. And then, Wyndham really figuring it out on both ends of the floor and with the ball in his hand. And he's going to be a big part of this team going forward. But I guess, like, we haven't really seen Northwestern in the past manage injuries in this way and come out looking like there's a lot of promise and hope and opportunity when big guys go down.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, because, I just try like spinning it forward. We got 3 more games in the regular season. And then, next year you're looking at this, incoming freshman class. Martinelli's, he's a junior. He'll be back unless he, transfers or something else. But like
you lose Barry, Nicholson, and Barnheiser, right?
Yeah.
And Leach. Yeah.
And Leach.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess Fitzsimmons too, but like, yeah.
There's, I mean, or Fitzmaurice.
Fitzmaurice. I always keep doing that. God damn it.
I think everyone does that. I think the announcers do it too.
Fitzsimmons and Jim O'Neill.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah.
Or John O'Neill.
O'Neill.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The never play this part again. That holds true for O'Neill too.
But I'm glad. I mean, the guy you brought up, right? That piece of connective tissue between last season and this season. We hope. I sure hope he doesn't transfer out. Is Nicky frickin' Buckets,
who my God.
Went off against Minnesota. He put up 29 on a bum wheel. He's got like a hurt ankle. And you know who he was checking most of the game on the other end of the floor? Dawson Garcia. He took on the best player of Minnesota defensively. Right. And you can look at the box for the past couple of games, and it's like Nicky, comes out for like a minute to get like a drink from a water bottle in these games. And aside from that, he's going the distance. He knows that this team, just the sun rises and sets with him in terms of the way that we're initiating the offense and where we're looking for the clutch buckets right now, right? And he, just a night like this, he goes out on the road, and again, with everything this team has gone through, you've just to have a warrior like that still leading you out there is a huge deal. And you're right. I mean, with there being 3 games left in the season, you do look ahead. We know we have this ballyhooed 5-man freshman class coming in. That's a huge class. And then you have these other guys like Mullins, Clayton, of course, Wyndham, Shervino, right? And you're going to have this whole brew of this really young group of guys and figuring it out. But the huge piece that you are going to have in that whole mix is just Nicky Buckets, who, yeah, it is amazing. Like, again, with everything this team's been through, that you just have a night tonight where Nicky goes out, again, on a bad ankle and gets you 29 points on the road in Minneapolis. I mean, he's the man.
Yeah, like you say, 3 more games left. We got Iowa, UCLA, and finishing up the season on the road at Maryland. So, that's what we got. We're going to need to win maybe at least 1, maybe 2 to try to break into the bottom of the tournament.
I never would have picked being here, and I'm not frankly happy being here now. But as a soccer fan, a relegation scrap is certainly an interesting place to be.
Well,
that's what we've got.
We're out of the bottom 3 at this moment with the win over Minnesota. That we jump above them.
We got the head-to-head and our overall record, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but then we're probably. I mean, so Iowa, a team that we had beat what? Yeah. 2 seconds left on the clock. And then, I mean, UCLA, they haven't been great this year. Minnesota just beat them like 5 days ago. And then, a Maryland team that we beat earlier in the year, granted at home in really tight fashion. And now they're ranked number 16 in the country. So that looks to be a pretty tough road matchup. But there's certainly the opportunity is here. And if the Cats continue to focus on getting to the rim, the tenacious, never say die defense and energy and hustle, and on the glass and checking other teams on offense, like that they've got chances here.
So here's something about UCLA I'm just looking at. Guess how many wins they have on the road outside of the Western time zone?
Oh, interesting. The old football, taking a trip down football road here. Not many, I'm guessing.
2.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, they I'm looking at their road games. They beat Washington. They beat USC. That's West Coast. They lost at Illinois. They beat Indiana. Actually, no. That Ohio State game, they've won one game.
Just Indiana?
Just Indiana.
Oh man, that team's a catastrophe on skates right now.
Well, hey, let's see it happen. I mean, again, if this team's proven anything, it's like the Cats are going to take it if you're going to give it to them. I mean, like, this team is tough. They're and again, like, I'm sure, I think, we said, I think attendance flagged a little for the Nebraska game, but Iowa's Iowa.
It was well, the student section was where it really lagged. I mean, the rest of the crowd was hot, but it was definitely a thin crowd on the student side.
But I think with Iowa, you're going to see a good turnout. Obviously, like, I think the fans, there's no love lost there. I think that the students are going to show out for that one. You're going to see a good one. And again, I think it's nothing we ever would have drawn up, but there are meaningful games here in terms of trying to get your way into the Big Ten tournament here. But also, like, we've been forced into a position where so many minutes are being given to guys who are going to be playing for this team for several more years to come. And every one of these minutes in every meaningful situation is a huge deal. And every big play that Justin Mullins or Jordan Clayton or KJ Wyndham make out at the perimeter is going to bear huge fruit and be a part of the connective tissue of this team for the next couple of seasons. So, yeah, let's see it. I'd love to see that. Let's beat Iowa. Let's beat UCLA. Let's finish the season with a winning record. And let's get into the Big Ten tournament.
Love it. If you or a loved one is seriously injured by someone else's negligence, hire Kent Simpson of the Simpson Law Group. After over a decade prosecuting murder cases in Chicago, Simpson opened his own firm focused on wrongful death and personal injury cases. He specializes in car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and other transportation accidents, as well as construction accidents, medical negligence, slip and falls, product liability, and more. Millions recovered for clients. No fee unless he wins. The Simpson Law Group. Compassion, empathy, and vigorous advocacy. Go to simpsonlawgroup.com or call 312-332-2107 for a free consultation. And go Cats. Turning our attention to the spring sports, we've got Lacrosse, who went on the road this afternoon and knocked off Syracuse, number 6 Syracuse, on the road in pretty solid fashion. I mean, it was
never trailed, right?
No, never trailed. 12-8 was the final. Yeah, I mean, got off to a big early lead, up 4-0 after the first quarter. Scored the first 5, and then little back and forth from there. But yeah, Madison Taylor 5 goals today, and then a bunch more just down. We got Nikki Miles, Hannah Rudolph, Abby Lacasio, Alexis Ventresca, Sam Smith, Riley Campbell, Aditi Foster. All we got scoring all up and down the lineup here. So. Great to see.
Yeah, I think I saw Syracuse had 6 draw controls in this game. Sam Smith had 10. It was, just phenomenal work from her. I think we're at the place in the season, right, where credit to Boston College. I mean, they came into our building, put a great first quarter up, right, and then, it was close from that point on, but tip of the cap to the number 1 team in the nation, right? They're number 1 for a reason. They returned all that experience. They came into our building. They did it. As of right now, I think we know we're not as good as Boston College, and as of right now, I don't know that there's anyone else that we're not better than. Right? I mean, like a game like this against the number 5 team in the country against Cuse, just a huge one, dominant display over a good Colorado team. Um,
Well, well, don't forget. I mean, not only was the Syracuse game on the road, but that's like a notorious hard place to play.
Yeah.
And I think I whatever ranking system I saw, they were number 5. But still, there does seem to be just a huge demarcation between the top 3 and everybody else.
yeah, I think speaking of like Syracuse and homecomings into that building, right? Delaney Schweitzer, who we were kind of wondering, like was an injury situation. When was she going to get back out there? Well, she has finally slid into where everyone expected she would be, which is Northwestern's starting goalkeeper, and was out there for BC. Didn't get the win, but has looked really good since then. Very good against Syracuse, and then the Colorado win, and then 2 absolute thumpings of lower caliber teams. But yeah, I mean, again, it's like you're not going to get that BC game back, but at the same time, it's like that was the Cats got behind early and then played well against an awesome team. And
I mean, think back to last year. They lost that one on the road at Notre Dame, and then turned it around from there and just went on a tear. So like
right.
Losing a game early when you're playing a schedule as hard as Northwestern plays every single year is not it's not a bad thing.
I don't think anything necessarily has happened, including that loss again in Ryan Fieldhouse against BC. I don't think anything's happened to dissuade anyone from thinking that there's a really good chance these teams meet for the 3rd straight year in the national title game. And that's not to throw short shrift to UNC. But it's just BC is phenomenal. And it's more of a testament to how good BC is right now. And the fact that, again, I'm sure the Cats would love to have them again, and they may get their shot in the NCAAs. But since that loss, the Cats, again, brushed that right off and clearly are, very much the team that we thought they were going to be.
So Marquette coming up, then Penn State, and then Maryland, who is ranked number 9 right now, before the Tar Heels.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the big, the only thing that would change my perspective that like on what you just shared, John, of thinking that Northwestern and BC are, head and shoulders above the rest and on a collision course once again would be that game on March 27th. Now it's in Ryan Fieldhouse. That's a great advantage for the Cats, and North Carolina was down last year. So we'll have to see what they look like if they've truly been rebuilt, but they're undefeated at the moment and everybody's got them. I mean, they're ranked number 2 for a reason,
Right. It takes me back to the thing we talked about a couple of weeks ago, which is just like, I can't just to be back at Sargent Hall and be like, well, I guess I'm going to wander over and watch North Carolina Northwestern tonight at Ryan Fieldhouse. What a freaking luxury to have.
You can't just wander over anymore. I mean, they're selling out the barn.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. That's what I mean. I mean, yeah, you got to wander over early. That's for sure if you're a student. But yeah. Huge. The team, I mean, they look awesome. Again, it's like they lost to the number 1 team in the country, and who knows? They might get their shot again.
Turning our attention to softball, bit of a rough start to the season. I mean, losing games to really, really good teams, but sitting right now at 6-8 on the season. Didn't have a great trip to LSU, losing to Virginia Tech, losing to LSU twice, beating up on UT Arlington. That's great. Going out to the Mary Nutter Classic where, I'm thinking back a couple years where we just were dominant in that tournament, but rough one, lost to Seattle, beat Utah, lost to St. Mary's, lost to Cal, and, just hasn't been the start that I think anyone was hoping for. But I mean, there's no reason to believe that things aren't going to turn around. Is that's not fair because the bar is set so high, and you have a bit of a rocky start, and it's like, oh, you're turning it around. They'll get it right. The bats will heat up. The hope is that the pitching can kind of shore up a little bit. That's sort of been the weak point off the start.
Yeah, we'll have to see what they look like in conference play. I mean, one of the things we highlighted that first weekend was you had a tournament that like a billion teams played in, and nobody kind of ran the table, and you had like Nebraska knocking off Tennessee and Duke knocking off Penn State, and then us beating Duke, and it just like there was a lot of back and forth. So like, this team this year is playing for a shot to defend their Big Ten championship. I don't think this team looks like a squad that's going to make a big postseason run, and that's no shade to the team. It's just kind of the reality of where they're at and the mix of talent that they have, and we'll see how they come together when we get to conference season. Right now, I think what's probably most concerning is that while they are kind of predictably not hanging with the LSUs and the very top flight talented teams that they're playing against, some of the the Virginia Techs and the Missouris that are in that like 15 to 20 ranking, those have been teams that Northwestern has hung really tight with in the past, and they're struggling with those squads right now. So hopefully with some bats and some settling on the pitching staff, they'll be able to come into conference season a bit stronger. But yeah, right now it's been tough sledding.
Yeah, I think we were kind of going over it beforehand and being like, so, kind of where are the problems? And it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I think you can look at the rotation, and I think Lauren and Riley, who've, pitched a lot of innings, right? That's like 11 starts between them. There have been several just games where things have just gone wrong. And again, just like Scuzz was saying, I mean, I think you can also look at the hitting, and Kelsey, Kansas in particular, I think she has 9 hits right now. And I think that includes, I want to say, a 4-for-4 outing against, I want to say, UT Arlington. So it's just not been the season she's looking for so far. But again, it's like you look at Kansas, you look at Kelsey. I mean, they're batting 209, 214. Like, it's Kansas and Kelsey. Like, we know the way that they can slap. Like, they're going to, like, and I should say, like, with softball turning, like, slap hitting, Kelsey particularly can slap hit, but I'm just meaning in terms of, like, raking. Like, they can both hit, period. And this just isn't going to be the kind of season, to Scuzz's point, where, like, Northwestern spends the whole non-conference season, like, in and around the top 25 and doing a ton of damage and establishing itself in the top 25. This is more about, all right, this is all about this team getting right and finding a way to shore up the hitting and wake up the pitching a little bit by the time they get into conference schedule.
That being said, I mean, Grace Nieto is hitting 412. Kaylee Avasado is hitting 409. Bridget Donaghy's hitting 259, but has an on-base percentage of OPS of 1.056. She's taken 10 walks. So, there are some bats going.
And none of them, including Donaghy, were really obviously Nieto and Avasado weren't playing last year for the Cats, right? So, right, that's all offense that really the Northwestern wasn't getting so much last year. So, right, I mean, they're getting contributions. We will expect that the bats will wake up from all the players we're expecting to get more offense from, right? And yeah, like, I mean, again, this is very much more about, let's see this team get right come Big Ten play. Like, I think that's where they're focused right now.
Also, we would be remiss if we did not mention the baseball team. We heard, a lot of people have been asking, when are we going to really get into baseball? And, this is not the Jack Lausch of it all either. I mean, that's great that he's playing on the team, and that's awesome. But, like, this baseball squad has gotten off to a really, really great start. They won their opening series for the first time in a really long time. Went out to Long Beach and had a great series. They played really, really well.
Scuzz, you want to lead on this?
Sure. Yeah, it's been pretty exciting. They're 5-2 overall. They had that, some real clutch hitting that opening weekend. I think they lost the first game and then won the next two, both in their last, not last at bat, but their last inning. They scored, runs to take the lead and then held on for the wins. Trent Leolios has been crushing crushing the ball, driving a lot of runs. Tyler Gannis as well. Jack Lausch, mentioned before, third on the team in batting average right now, and I think fourth in OPS as I'm seeing. Like, he's been getting on base. He's got 7 hits. Not he's been a bit more of a table setter than a run driver or whatnot, but yeah, the offense has been doing its part, and then the pitching has been solid as well. And I think really standing out to me is Sam Laboki, who is effectively Northwestern's closer. He has great stats, but he transferred from Vanderbilt, where he was pretty good at Vanderbilt, and especially those 2 games against Long Beach State, coming in with 1-run leads to hold those down was fantastic. So, yeah, it's a nice start to the season. We'll just have to see how this team plays and how they come together going forward. But they've got good things going for them on both ends. I feel like in the past, when baseball has been good, it has typically been more of a stud pitcher or two who are able to really control things. And we're seeing kind of both sides of the ball looking promising for the Cats.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of the team where, again, like, that 5-2 start is great, but you're right. Like, there have been times where we're like, oh, well, this guy's pretty good, this guy's pretty good, and this is definitely a year where you're going, we got a bunch of guys who can pitch here, and you can look and be like, Gannis, Leolios, Lausch, Markinson, like, they all hit pretty well. Like, those are all, like, suddenly those are, like, you just listed 4 guys, 4 of the 9 guys, and again, it's like, we don't have a total group of guys, like, a whole team where the guys are just, like, swinging, just hitting the cover off the ball. But we got a bunch of guys hitting right now. And in the case of Lausch, he's got 12 strikeouts so far right now, and it's like he's, like, cutting away. He hasn't played baseball for a long time. Like, to me, the fact that he's hitting 304 right now is pretty incredible. Like, testament to him, to just be shaking the rust off like that. Like, I'm not really worried about the strikeouts. Like, it's pretty impressive, the start that he's had so far. So, again, yeah, it seems to be, at least thus far, knock wood, a pretty balanced team that's going to be fun to watch. And I think they're off to their best start since, '03? So, the numbers back it up. Like, they're not doing this by luck. It's by Northwestern standards, a pretty deep, balanced team. And they got some big ones coming up, so we'll see how they can do.
Yeah, both these sports, softball and baseball, are going to be I highly impacted by the presence of the former Pac-12 teams. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch as it comes to fruition.
No, definitely. But yeah, I mean, baseball's at Duke. Duke's ranked number 17 right now, so they got a 3-game set this weekend in Durham. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, taking one out of that set would be huge for this team.
For sure.
Hey, we already beat Harvard, so
yeah,
exactly. Anything else to mention tonight?
Yeah, talking football, which is one of the only sports I feel like we haven't mentioned tonight. A nice little piece of good news, not entirely unexpected, but good news nonetheless. Carmine Bastone and Cam Porter are both going to be back for this coming season, and those are both very valuable players for this football team. I mean, in a number of ways. Obviously, the leadership. Obviously, it's awesome for these two guys who have both battled injuries in their career. In the case of Porter, kind of more long-term, and in the case of Bastone, last season. That these guys both get one more year to run it back is awesome. And you're also talking about 2 team leaders, 2 beloved teammates, 2 guys that just their Q rating in Northwestern Nation is both really... it's really high for both guys, right? And again, these are both team captains for last season, are both going to be back this season. So we're pretty excited about that. And from a football standpoint, it's very valuable. I mean, these are 2 players who log a lot of really key minutes at 2 really key positions, defensive tackle and running back. So again, I think we probably expected and hoped that this was going to happen in both cases, but to get the official word was definitely some good news.
Yeah, I remember when senior day happened and Porter's name was not on there, and not everybody clocked that, because I think there was some chatter about, what are we gonna do at running back, and I was pretty sure he had the opportunity and would, hopefully take advantage of it. But it's fantastic to have those guys back, to have that continuity, and that's just becoming much, much more important in football, to be able to keep your leaders, keep your culture from year to year, with the transfer patterns that are happening. So that's a great start for what we hope is a much improved Cats team next year, with some of the players coming in.
Yeah, well, on that note, I guess we'll go ahead and leave it there for tonight. Head to our website, westlawpirates.com, where you can leave comments and questions. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, all at Westlaw Pirates, and email the show, westlawpirates@gmail.com. Tune in next time as we give our visceral and statistical views on Northwestern athletics. Look for us in the west lot of Ryan Field flying the red pirate flag, because we give no quarter, especially the fourth. For John Lacombe and Eric Skasby, I'm Sam Walter. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.